You are listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, episode number 277, the delicate balance of accountability and self-compassion. This is something that I know that I've struggled with. So if you have struggled with how do you balance this? Am I being too hard on myself? Am I being too easy on myself? How do I find that middle ground? This episode is for you. So I'm going to start with the extremes and why they're unhelpful. So the first extreme is being too far on the side of accountability. For me, when I do this, I make myself burn out and sick and miserable. I become so obsessed with doing the things that I say I'm going to do that I get crazy over it, and in an unhealthy way. I will give you an example. When I was younger, I had a Fitbit when they were like super popular, and I wanted to get 10,000 steps every day. And sometimes I would see that I only had, let's say, 6,000 steps, and it was 10 o'clock at night. And I was probably in like college, maybe. That sounds about right. But I picture myself in my parents' house. So maybe it was right after college, or maybe it was on a summer break. But I would walk around the house, like inside, do little laps between like the kitchen, the living room, and the dining room. They were kind of like all connected for hours until I got the 10,000 steps. It was bonkers, and it was completely unhealthy. It's interesting too with accountability, because when we save things till the last minute, for whatever reason, maybe it was for good reason, and then we run around like crazy trying to finish it, then we don't enjoy that. But when we plan ahead and we're accountable on things we say we're going to do in a timely manner, it ends up making everything a lot smoother. So there are ways to do it where I could have not saved my 10,000 steps, but maybe went for a morning walk and did this or that. But who knows what that day called for. The point is, you may be able to relate to this and feel like sometimes you are too far on the side of accountability where you're just unhappy or you've burnt yourself out, and it's not healthy and it's not fun. And some people are on the other side. They are so far on self-compassion that they are never accountable, and they don't make progress towards their goals, at least the progress they would like to make. And they often look back on the day, week, month, year with regret, feeling like I'm so far from where I want to be, and I don't even see the progress. It just feels so far. And that feels terrible too. So it really is a delicate balance. And this episode is about how we find that. First thing I want to say is it's going to be different every day. Some days you are going to have so much energy. You're going to feel like you can take on the world, and things are just going to go your way. Do you ever have a time where you're trying to finish this or that, but then you have a meeting on your calendar and you're like, oh, if only I didn't have that call. And the person emails you and it's like, hey, I need to reschedule the call. I love when that happens. Not that I love when calls are rescheduled, but when I really actually had something else more important to do. And then all of a sudden it just magically, my calendar opens up so I can do that thing. Some days go like that. Other days go the opposite. You have tons going on, and then some kind of emergency happens. For me, sometimes the emergency is, Jacqueline, can you run down to the ice cream shop and do X or Y? Or now with Michael, it has been a lot of times, Michael has a cold, especially when he was a little baby, newborn. We would take him to the doctors every time he had a cold. So now that's going to be the whole morning is, going to the doctors. And this, of course, that's what we want to do. Of course, it's a no-brainer that we're going to tend to those things, right? Those emergencies or things that come up, but your day might not go as planned. So how do you bounce back? How do you navigate that? And what system of managing your to-do list and schedule works for you? I'm not here to tell you that there's a right system, because I've learned, like I talked about a couple episodes ago with my husband, and how he manages things is totally different than how I manage things, and neither is right nor wrong. So every single person listening, you have your way. I want you to think about what way really works for you, what way really supports you in getting the things you need to do done that will move you closer to your goals, but also allows for life to happen, also allows for you to be compassionate with yourself when things don't quite go as planned, when you need to make adjustments, but not using that as an excuse to take it too far and then just not do the things you want to do. So how can you really find your balance amongst those things? And where are your boundaries? So what are you can set your boundaries on both sides. What are you willing to do to reach your goals and to do the things you say you're going to do? And what are you not willing to do? And none of the answers to these questions are right or wrong, but I can tell you that I personally, at this current stage of my life, because every stage is different and every phase is different, and we're always in a different place. But right now, for what my life looks like, where I'm working mostly on Michael's naps and when I have help, which is a limited amount of hours per week. So I am willing sometimes to do something at night. Or I work all the time on Saturday and Sunday now. I would have never done that before. But if it's a Saturday and we don't have any plans and Michael's taking a nap and I don't have personal stuff to do and I have a deadline, a target finish date, as I like to call it, coming up for something, I will work and I want to work and I look forward to that. So it's just about what we are willing to put in. But then what are we not willing to put in? A lot of things that I'm not willing to put in. I have boundaries. I'm not willing to miss, something important for family or friends to work. I'm not. So I don't have to worry about that because I won't work when I'm supposed to be, somewhere else that's important to me or whatever it is. So what are those boundaries? I'm not willing to work when I don't feel good, when I'm exhausted. It doesn't matter if it's a target finish day the next day. If I don't feel physically up to it, I'm not going to do it. I can shift things around. So it's about figuring out what is your balance and what is your system. So if it's helpful, I will share my system, not because I think you should take my system or copy it, but because sometimes hearing someone else's system starts to spark an idea. Oh, and I tried this a couple of years ago and I could tie that together with one thing Jacqueline said, and then I create my own system. So what has been working for me is just getting really organized on my tasks and having them organized for the week and for the month. That way, in any given day, especially having a baby, many unexpected things can come up. All of a sudden, his nap is really short. At the time of recording this, we just passed daylight savings, and Michael has been up super early every morning. And normally I get a little bit done before he gets up in the morning, but I haven't been able to because he's been awake and wanting to be fed and wanting to get up and wanting to play. And so it requires adjustment. So if I have things that I have to get done on a certain day, it might not happen. But if I just want to do this over the course of the week, it's much more likely that I will get it done. So I'm a little bit more flexible, but I'm 100% self-accountable. And these are the things I do every week. These are the things I do every month. This is the goal I'm working towards. This is the target finish date. Does it mean I will hit the goal? No, I might. And I'm going to put in my part to do my best I possibly can and get as close as I can. And hopefully I hit it. And put my best foot forward, and that's all I can do. So it's about finding that delicate balance. And my takeaway for you today is figure out how to organize your time and your schedule in a way that helps you stay accountable while also giving yourself grace. So it's going to be your own organizational system. And what I want to end on is a concept that I've taught many times, you may have heard before, but that I love and I always go back to and fits perfectly with this, which is the minimum standards. So the minimum standards are the minimum things you are committed to no matter what, unless there is a true emergency. And when I say true emergency, I'm talking real emergency, not excuse, right? Something that really, truly takes precedent over everything else, of course. But outside of those rare times that probably will happen a couple of times a year, if that, these things you're 100% committed to. So for me, my minimum standard is probably at this stage of my life, 2 sweaty workouts a week. I would love to do 3. 3 is a goal. 2 is my minimum standard. My minimum standard for reading is reading at least a couple times a week. I would love to read every morning. Doesn't always happen, right? And so just being honest with yourself about what am I 100% committed to? And when you have that, for example, today Today's Tuesday. I normally exercise on Tuesdays. I do one of those sweaty workouts, but I'm here at the studio recording podcasts. So I didn't do my morning workout. Everything kind of is thrown off. But because I'm 100% committed to at least 2 workouts, I will find time to do it, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, a different day. I'm going to find time to do that because I'm committed to that minimum standard. And it's really important to have the minimum standard, because if I didn't have it, I would probably just say, I'll just try for it next Tuesday. But now, because I'm committed to that, I'm going to find a time to do it. So the minimum standard really sets you up for that accountability piece. But it gives you self-compassion, because usually your minimum standard is going to be lower than your ideal. So I said my ideal is 3 sweaty workouts. My minimum standard is 2, right? And so that helps me balance those 2 things. So if you take anything away from this episode, try that concept out. It's been helping me for years and years and years. My minimum standard is 10 minutes of sweating. It doesn't have to be 45 minutes. It's nice when it's 45 minutes. I prefer 45 minutes, but 10 minutes is great. So really looking at that and figuring out how it applies to you and your goals is a great place to start. I'd love to hear if you have a system that works for you on balancing accountability and that self-compassion. I'd love to hear about it. I think it's an ever-changing conversation for each and every one of us based on where we are at in our lives. But it's something that if we just bring a little bit of awareness to, we can start to figure out, and we can start to notice when we veer off on the extreme of one side or the other, which is not supporting us either way. So I hope this episode has been inspiring for you in your journey of your self-awareness and staying self-accountable to your goals while giving yourself lots and lots of self-love and compassion in the journey. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next episode.